Up top you see, believe it or not, the untouched film. We haven't altered that in any way. And below is Videolab's color restoration. What's apparent is that hidden under all that darkness and desaturation is a Superman movie that looks like Superman.
Let's
Zack
go, go,
Snyder
go, go, go!
Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you can have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on any damn device you choose. I'm Tom Merritt.
Heck yeah, I'm Brian Brushwood, not Superman, although according to Videolab, Man of Steel didn't look like Superman. To which I say, doggone it, I'm really tired of bright, oversaturated saturated red, white, and blue and yellow Supermans. I like the dark Man of Steel, and you can hate me if you want.
It was pretty crazy that how Christopher Reeves looking he became when they did the color saturation.
Yeah, if you watch the full video, and just go to YouTube and search Videolab What If Man of Steel was in color, you can see it on there. They have like production shots where you see the actual costume that whatever his name was wearing, and it's a bright, shiny red, white, and gold costume, you know.
Like deep down inside.
Yeah, but and they also make a good case. They point out, like, look, in the last 10 years, the last time DC tried to do a bright, colorful, popping, you know, DC style movie, it was the Green Lantern, and it didn't go so great.
And
so
it was a big six.
We did.
Hey, you know who the Superman of hockey news is? It's Eck from HockeyBuzz.com, who is joining us once again on Cordkillers. Big cord cutter himself. How's it going, Eck?
I'm doing great. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Heck yeah, man, dude. So thrilled to have you back.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I was telling Brian, we've been watching Hack the System in our house all the time, so my kid's now really going to think I'm famous. So this is pretty exciting.
Right on. Well, you ever find yourself in the middle of a show about cord cutting and you're looking for a segue? Here's an easy way to lead into the primary target.
Gentlemen, there's a war on.
Uh-oh.
It's a war of numbers. Nielsen data released Thursday says that people aren't cutting the cord. In fact, it's quite the opposite. 93% of households with cable, broadband, and streaming video on demand would rather drop broadband or streaming video before cable. And in fact, all those young people you hear canceling cable, they're just doing it because they're moving. As soon as they get to the new place, they just sign it right back up. Meanwhile, Deloitte says, oh no, you are the Eastern rebels to my established thing. We have a streaming study that 56% of people surveyed stream movies, not watch on cable, 53% stream TV shows, but only 45% watch TV programs live. Nobody's watching live TV anymore. And those young people you're talking about, Nielsen, Deloitte says, 14 to 25-year-olds, 72% stream video and think it is among their most valuable services. When we ask them for other most valuable services, only 58% said pay TV. Meanwhile, U.S. analyst Michael Nathanson of MoffettNathanson jumped up with a rifle in his hand and said, I will save you all. Netflix now makes up 6% of total TV viewing. If you want to get out of here, you talk to Netflix. Nathanson figures that Netflix accounts for 43% of the ratings decline the networks experienced last quarter, and it's only going to get worse.
Tom, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but this sounds a little bit like a conversation.
Strange metaphor? Is that what you're going to say?
Well, no. It sounds to me like maybe we've had this conversation, this debate once or twice before. I feel like at some point in our 6-year history, you and I have talked about, like, well, does the data support that there's a massive exodus from traditional methods of watching television, or does it indicate that everything's going to be the same as it is? I feel like I'm caught in a time warp.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to beat up on Nielsen too much. What they're doing is going to people who have all three and say, hey, if you had to drop one, which would you drop? And they're like, I don't know. I probably wouldn't drop cable. But I guess I'd drop the streaming video. That's only $9 a month, you know, whatever. Eck, do you think there's a way that all three of these could be true at the same time?
Yes, and if there was ever a truth to the fact that, you know, Nielsen's in bed with the cable companies, it's this, you know. What does it matter where people are watching things? It shouldn't matter to Nielsen at all. That's not their job. Their job is not to determine where. Their job is to determine what shows are popular and yet they're getting into this battle. It just seems like they're going for their people who line their pockets.
That's actually a really interesting take that I hadn't considered, is that Nielsen itself has a dog in the fight, because Nielsen is not just in the tracking eyeballs business. They are specifically in the tracking eyeballs for the purpose of maximizing exposure for advertisers business. Yep. And considering the fact that Netflix and Amazon Prime and I guess Hulu, it does matter, but so many of these aren't advertising driven. They don't have any reason to exist. Like Netflix is just like, that's great that you exist, Nielsen. It doesn't matter to us because we know exactly how many people are watching. Also, we're not interested in sharing that.
I don't know. I'm going to stick up for Nielsen in this case. Nielsen Net Ratings makes a lot of money figuring out how to track online ratings for people on the web. So it's not like, oh, Nielsen is tied up only with broadcast and cable television. If that dies, Nielsen dies. They've actually been making good moves to say, look, we're a data company. We don't care what data needs you have. We can measure media consumption, and we do it all the time. So they've looked into DVR viewing, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's less about, it's easy to jump to the conclusion that Nielsen is in bed with cable, and so they're defending them. I think it's probably less conspiratorial, but has the same effect, whereas it's more like Nielsen's in the same industry, so they're going to tend to look at the data in a way that confirms that things aren't changing as fast as maybe other people think they are. That's why I think all three of these data points can be the same. It's all just looking at it from a different angle.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's very easy to get caught up in the debate between, are we looking at trends or are we looking at data points? I would say that the stuff we've heard indicates some data points that, we're not racing to cut the cord. I'd say that's accurate. However, also, we're definitely trending in that direction, and especially in a world where streaming overtakes live TV. Let's say that again. More people watch content by streaming services like Netflix than watch live TV. Go back in a time machine and explain that to me in 1985. That's insane, man.
Yeah.
It really is, and and that's really what we should be taking from all this, and that's why I kind of disagree with you, Tom, because I wonder, how advertising works on television versus advertising online. I wonder if there's as much money in the other things they're doing as the old school is. I guess
I totally agree with Eck on this. If I'm going to get conspiratorial here, like, let's say that they're in the metrics business. If there's no advertisers, if you remove advertisers from the equation, there's 8 players? You got Sony, Crackle, you got Amazon, you got Hulu, you got Netflix, you got Amazon Prime and stuff. All of a sudden, there's no way they could, and considering each of those players already knows their own numbers, why would they be interested in spending a lot of money to Nielsen? Nielsen has a vested interest in selling off this information to all these businesses.
Yeah, but they don't care whether they're selling it to online companies or television companies. As long as they're selling it, right? And that's the thing. Hulu needs somebody to verify their numbers, help them out. So does all of the other websites out there with video ads, TechCrunch, etc. Nielsen's got ads aren't going away. So as long as ads need to be rated and verified by an independent person, Nielsen's got a shot at making a good business here. On the other side, Deloitte isn't against television. You could make the same argument that, hey, they're spinning this because it's live TV that streaming is outpacing, not TV. People are watching all kinds of DVR'd programs, and so they're making it sound like streaming is more popular than it is. I don't think Deloitte is trying to kiss up to the streaming industry any more than I think Nielsen's trying to defend cable television.
Well, and there's a second layer to this whole thing as well, because just as live viewing, dips down below streaming, we're seeing a shift among the big broadcasters to doing live event type stuff. That's why we saw, what was it, The Sound of Music, and we saw the Peter Pan stuff.
Yeah, right.
They want something.
It'll be The Wiz next year.
Is that what they're doing? The Wiz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like they figured out that what they want is they want engagement. They want the world tweeting about the same thing at the same time. They're trying to manufacture the same magic sauce that happens automatically with sporting events and live events, like we'll talk later on with upcoming boxing matches and so on. So I don't know. You're right in that it really does depend on what your perspective is, like where you're going to sit and look to analyze things. I don't know.
I'm just saying, Nielsen gonna be all right. They don't need to start a Patreon or anything. We do, though. And that's why we did one. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is the way we make this show happen, because we aren't a giant measurement company that's been around for decades. We're two people hosting a show talking about TV and movies. And so we were like, listen, if you want to hear us talk about this stuff, give us $1. And you did. Thank you. We're able to do the show because of you.
Dude, and look, Tom, you're underselling it. It's not just that we're able to do the show. And first of all, we're very thankful that we're able to keep doing the show and bring you the quality programming. How cool was it when we had Chet Kanoja? How great is it that we're able to get, the head of Trigger Street Productions and all of our friends up here on the show. But more importantly, by keeping us independent, we ain't going to be skewed. We're going to tell you exactly what we think. And that goes for you, Hulu Plus. We ain't going to read your damn ads.
Although Google does pay for my healthcare. But that's because of my wife.
Disclosure. I like it, Tom.
You
got integrity.
I like to take my clothes. I like to disclose. Let's go to the signals intelligence segment.
Sounds good to me, man.
So last week, we told you about how Verizon started offering more flexible bundles where you could choose which packages you wanted in your basic package. We told you how ESPN said, Verizon, I don't think you can do that under our current agreement. And we speculated, well, maybe this is a negotiating tactic. Tuesday, right after the show, day after the show, Verizon CFO Fran Shammo said in the Verizon earnings call, we believe that we are allowed to offer these packages under our existing contracts. So kind of calling them out there. Meanwhile, Fox Sports told Bloomberg Business, we reject Verizon's view that it can pursue the new packaging scheme it announced, yet still comply with our agreements. NBC jumped on and said, yeah, this doesn't meet our current terms either. And then this morning, ESPN sued Verizon for breach of contract, saying, quote, we simply ask that Verizon abide by the terms of our contracts. Verizon's not backing down here, Brian.
All right.
This is weird.
Well, it was weird for me, and then you and I had a conversation before the show that sort of made everything clear to me. It's weird if you look at it like, okay, they're clearly doing something. Either it is or isn't against the agreement. How could they be confused about it? How can one party say we're pretty sure we're allowed to break up this bundle and sell it, and the other party's like, no, that's not in the contract? That seems black and white. But it was you, Tom, that pointed out that it's entirely possible that in the agreement that their basis could be a certain percentage of sales will include this bundled X, Y, or Z. And it could be that their projections say we're going to offer this package, but even if everybody, a lot of people buy it, it's still not going to get us over our illegal percentage or something.
Right. Because the one thing we know for sure is that there is not an agreement that says ESPN has to be in every package. Comcast has an agreement that allows them to sell the broadcast-only channels along with HBO. They've been offering that package out there. So one could assume that the Verizon contract with ESPN has some sort of threshold that they have to meet. Let's say, 90% of your packages have to include ESPN. And there could be an argument over the semantics there where Verizon says, hey, look, we know everybody's going to pick ESPN as one of their bundles. We're going to meet your 90%. You got nothing to worry about. And ESPN says, yeah, but the contract says you shouldn't even give them the option not to choose us. And so we don't like that. And it's a war over interpretation. Totally my guess there. What do you think, Eck?
I think you might be onto something. I think there's definitely some motives going on here, because when you watch the people of Verizon, whenever they were interviewed about this, and I watched a lot of videos of spokespeople coming on CNBC and talking about this, they're always mentioning, well, this is what the consumer wants. This is what there's a lot of, and we believe we can do this, and we should be able to do this it's so crazy hypocritical, right? After all this time, to hear Verizon saying, well, people only watch 17 channels, and what the, now you're saying this. How long?
And especially to use it as a justification to violate their own contracts. It's like, you can't. I mean, I guess you can. Clearly, they're playing both sides. They're at one point they're like, sorry, bro, we'd love to give you what you want when you want on whatever device you want, but there's a little thing called contracts. And now they're turning around saying, contracts? Last time I checked, the people wanted this. And we're going to give it to them.
Wanted that forever, right? I mean, that's what this whole show has been based on, and that's what we've always wanted. So now suddenly Verizon is on the side of us being able to, pick a la carte.
Well, and honestly, I think, go ahead, Eck. Sorry.
Part of it also, did it ever occur to you, the whole Sling ESPN thing is really fascinating to me. And I wonder if some of these people got pissed off. I talked to somebody at another cable network, not Verizon today, and they said they were really pissed off that ESPN was on Sling TV, that really bothered them. And I wonder if this is in any way a shot back, because ESPN is a huge bane of their existence. It's the most expensive channel they have, and the fact that it just showed up on Sling TV it rubs some people the wrong way. It feels like a little bit of a fire back to me.
That's interesting. That there could be some motivation there. Obviously, it's not the reason, but that could be some motivation to be like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just try to interpret our contract that way. Honestly, I think, Eck, you nailed what is most interesting about this. There is a very interesting sideshow about ESPN suing Verizon over it, but honestly, the bundles really aren't even that great. When we announced it last week, Ron and Brian were like, doesn't sound that different than the same old, same old. What's interesting is that companies are now finally going, yeah, we're on your side, viewers. We want to give you more choice. Cablevision announced a cord cutter package. They call it the Cablevision has a package called the Cord Cutter package.
This is like Ghost Inc. offering their Ghostbuster package.
Right. 50 megabits per second internet, HBO Now, and a Mohu Leaf antenna. Now, it is a cable company package, so of course it's $44.90 a month for the first year, plus $15 a month for HBO, plus a $5 modem leaf. So it's really $65 a month for 12 months, and then it gets even more expensive, and then we'll tell you how. But again, Comcast has that internet package. We talked about that previously. I guess in Washington State, they're upping the price to $67.95 a month for HBO limited basic and 25 megabits per second, which is slower than the old Internet Plus. But the point is, we're getting all of these creative packages now finally because the pressure is on.
Well,
and they're not being publicized in a big way. Have you noticed that? They're really under the radar. If you're not watching this show, you might not even know about these, because I went on Verizon trying to find it.
Buried, yeah.
I'm not even going to fault them for that, because that makes sense. I mean, it's like the bulk of their business comes from people adopting the traditional model. I moved into an apartment. I'm going to get cable just like, my dad did before me, and so on. I think that what they're offering, first of all, it is toothless, but at least they're making noise in the right direction. And to be honest, for the folks who are listening to this program, I would say that whether or not it ever becomes mainstream, we don't care if cord cutting becomes mainstream. What we care about is that we have that option, that it's available to everyone. And this is a step in that right direction, I think.
Yeah, it's control. I want to be able to control what I watch and what I choose to watch and what I choose to pay for it. And I want it to be a reasonable amount of money. I don't want it to be skyrocketing out of control. I'm willing to pay for the stuff I watch. I just don't want to have to be like, well, you pay for all of this or nothing. I mean, the biggest example here in LA is the Dodgers own a television channel that all the Dodgers games are on now, and only Time Warner Cable offers it because they contracted Time Warner Cable to run it. And when I say only Time Warner Cable offers it, I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure there's a couple other cable companies, but a lot of cable companies are not offering it. Or if they are offering it, they're offering it on an extra special expensive package, not on the basic package. So suddenly I live in a town where, because I don't pay extra or I don't subscribe to the right cable company, I can't watch the local team. It's blacked out everywhere. But I can watch the A's and the Cardinals just fine.
And they've been doing that in Philadelphia for a long time, and other places that have Comcast Sportsnet, like Comcast Sportsnet in San Jose, in Philadelphia. That was a big issue because the Flyers, the Sharks, they were only on. You couldn't get them with Verizon for a while. Finally, Verizon somehow, I guess Comcast, with all the stuff they were trying to prove they weren't a monopoly, caved and made the channel available. But for a while there, you couldn't get it. I can't help but think that the way they're doing this in low-key ways is more about trying to pull the networks and prove to the networks that people want this, and make the networks look bad for not allowing it. And
they're definitely trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? It's like they're dipping a toe over in this realm to find whether or not there's rabid customer demand, because if there is, then they're able to champion the customer and ride that wave to success. And if they're able to dip a toe and nobody does anything, then they're able to say like, hey bro, we offered you what you say you want. Clearly you don't really want it. So it's like, it's a smart move. I'm curious what you guys think this ESPN suit is going to amount to. Like, is this just a preemptive, like, we're pretty sure that this is a violation or going to be a violation, so let's just get started right now and work it out as we go along? Or do you think that this is just some noise that won't even matter?
That's a good question. Like, what does ESPN see as a victory, Eck? Is it Verizon capitulating and getting rid of this, or signing new terms, or what?
I think ESPN knows it can't win this, or because in every article, did you ever find the actual? Did ESPN ever say anything about this is why this is wrong? This is why,
and I would imagine it's not in their interests to share that with the public.
Right, it's not, but it would have been. I think this is more about the slings of the world who think they have like an exclusive deal, and I really think they're trying. And I know this isn't online necessarily, but I feel like they are trying to at least make a stand because they can. But I don't think they can win it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when you factor in the fact that it's entirely possible that the whole reason they're filing the suit is just so that they can say that they filed the suit, to their shareholders and so on. There's so many different players.
And it could still all be negotiating tactics on all sides, where ESPN is like, all right, we'll drop the suit if you give us an extra percentage or an extra or pay us a little bit of extra money, renegotiate the contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like, if you're going to build a shed in your backyard, you need a permit, but you can just build it and maybe they'll ask you for a permit. I think it feels like they're doing that to ESPN. We're just going to put it on there and then make them ask us for it and make them try to prove that we can't do it. And that's really what it feels like to me.
Yeah. All right, let's gear up very quickly. A little bit of news about the gear you use to watch the stuff you like to watch. If you are a preview member of Xbox One, you can get this now. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for a future update. But Miracast streaming coming to the Xbox One. So if you have an Android phone or a Windows phone or a PC with Windows, you'll be able to cast your photo and video to the console or even mirror your screen. Comes in the Smart Glass preview app on Xbox One for now, and then it'll be in the Smart Glass app for everybody later on. This is also the same update that's going to give you the live TV streaming in Canada and the US.
Do you think this is the kind of thing that has the potential to break out to be a widespread used format, or is this a bit too
maybe
techie
for the Android phone users? If they're like suddenly able to I can take the video that I'm watching on my phone and put it on the Xbox on the big screen. That seems to be the most likely avenue.
Yeah. And the coolest thing about this kind of stuff is when you have something like Slingbox or something like that you have on your Android device but not on Xbox, but you want to watch it on your TV. So now you can stream it through there. And that's usually before. Remember Hulu, there were certain things that you used. I did this with with the Apple quite a few times with AirPlay. So
well, and I would say that AirPlay has been a massive success, and that even people who casually use their iPhone know that they can AirPlay a thing to another Apple device. Whereas Miracast, I gotta confess, I saw the word Miracast and had to look it up to remember. Oh, that's right, it's a streaming over the air, blah blah blah. It's kind of like AirPlay, only more complicated. And
It's not even more complicated. It's just not all Apple. Right? So
correct.
You can't, it's like, oh, well, it's Android and it's Windows Phone. And, it's not like, oh, if you live in the one universe, everything's simple.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, man, but I just read Becoming Steve Jobs, and it makes a very good case that Steve Jobs' contribution to the universe was that he realized that sometimes less is more. Sometimes fewer choices is better, because just because you can do a thing doesn't mean that everything needs to be able to easily access that thing. And I know how to AirPlay. I don't know how to Miracast just yet.
Hey, thanks to Bitch in the chat room for sending along the Hollywood Reporter story that just posted right now as we're recording this. The new fronts are going on in New York, by the way. So all this week you'll be hearing about announcements like this. But Yahoo has announced 11 new digital TV series. I'm sorry, 14 new digital TV series alongside things like Community, et cetera. So Yahoo's beefing up their lineup. They're doubling down.
Big names, too. We got Katie Couric. We got David Pogue in here.
David Pogue's going to do a food series called Thug Kitchen.
No. That's separate. There's Thug Kitchen.
Oh, do I have that backwards? I guess David Pogue's doing Your Tech.
That's correct. That would make a little bit more sense.
I was reading what I wanted to read.
Although I tell you what, now that you say it, I want nothing more in the world than to see David Pogue hosting Thug Kitchen.
So want that picture. I had to say it. No, Naomi Campbell, I Am Naomi, riding shotgun with Michelle Rodriguez, sees the Fast and Furious star drive fast cars. Who doesn't
Right
see
on,
that?
man. Dude, that's huge. And New Fronts, for those who aren't familiar with it, we've talked about it before, but this is essentially like basically the pitch announcements that they do, sort of like the upfronts.
Yeah, it's basically saying, hey, here's our stuff that you'll want to buy ads against. So come order some ads.
Yeah, man, I'm seeing. I'm just sort of running through. These are the names that are associated with it in the Hollywood Reporter. We got Joel McHale, Simon Cowell.
Yeah, McHale's obviously Community, but Simon Cowell doing Ultimate DJ, pitting EDM DJs against one another. EDM for
death.
electronic dance music. Zed will win. I'm just saying. All right. Real quickly, folks, we support ourselves in lots of other ways. I mean, you help make this show possible, and we thank you a lot for that. But as we tell you every week, there's other things we do. And one of the things I do is write some books. Some of them are even readable. So if you are interested in a book about a base on the moon where a man finds a strange discovery that could lead to reconnection with Earth, but someone wants to stop him from pursuing it. Meanwhile, on Earth, a monk of the Citadel discovers a strange ancient artwork that could lead to the truth of the myth of the Moon Men. Well, that's called Citadel 32, and it's got a cover illustrated by Scott Johnson, and you can find it at TomMerrittBooks.com.
Hey, Tom, I got the most curious tweet today. Somebody asked, it basically said, I love Cordkillers. Do you guys ship your merch internationally? And the first thing I thought was, well, we don't have Cordkillers merch. That's one of the things we hope to add this year. But then I realized that we talk every week about whether it's scam stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. And the answer, of course, is yes, we ship internationally, and the rates are fairly reasonable.
Yeah. With the books, you're basically going to buy it through a local outlet like an Amazon or something like that, or an ebook seller like that. But yeah, you should be able to get it.
Heck yeah. Shall we jump into the front lines?
I was just about to suggest that.
Front lines!
Hey man, Comcast. I don't know if you heard, but they were trying to merge with Time Warner, and they dropped their attempt last week, citing government opposition to the merger. But the Washington Post says that sources say that Charter is now exploring a bid for Time Warner Cable. By the way, if you read that article, Charter was apparently already planning to bid for Time Warner Cable, but then upswept, I believe, with a higher bid came
Comcast merge blocked them.
Yeah, exactly. It was like they pitched at 130, then they went to 132, then Comcast said 159, and then jumped in front of line, and then of course the merger has not happened now, which Twitter exploded. So the question is, should Time Warner Cable settle for a second choice, or just stay single as a powerful, self-confident, independent cable company? Tom?
It's a new series on HBO.
Yeah. By the way, extension on this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Comcast Time Warner Cable not happening means that now if you're a Time Warner Cable subscriber, you will not soon become a Comcast customer. But honestly, I'm not sure how much else it changes your cable viewing. It certainly has a big effect on ISPs, because ISPs and their whole negotiation for interconnects have to do with leverage. And if Comcast and Time Warner had been able to merge, that ISP would have had a huge amount of leverage against CDNs and transit providers, et cetera. But that's not really a cord cutter conversation so much. I think Charter buying Time Warner Cable is certainly going to cause much less concern out there. And I don't know, maybe Time Warner Cable should do it. I have no idea.
I'm in Philadelphia, so I'm around. I live in the shadow of the Comcast building essentially, and it's just cold there. That's all I can say. And but basically, I kind of feel as if this whole thing has been going on for such a long time with Time Warner that Comcast almost didn't matter as much to buy Time Warner by the time it got to this point. It really felt like they were so into it, and then over time, and I think that's the cord killer aspect to this. I think that they're buying a cable company, and they're a cable company, and they know that cable companies are not exactly the greatest investment unless obviously it's for the internet. But still, I get the impression that Time Warner doesn't matter to them nearly as much as it did when it started.
So let me tell you. First of all, I was the naysayer. All of Twitter burst into an Ewok surprise party, like it's the end of Return of the Jedi, when it was announced that this merger wasn't going to happen, and everyone's like we did it. And I asked publicly, I'm like, did what? What is it that you expect is going to happen? Like, do you think that suddenly Time Warner Cable and Comcast are suddenly going to compete, and that the consumer's going to win? And everyone called me a grouch, rightfully so. That's fine, but Out of all the replies I got one from my friend Joel Bush right here in Austin, Texas, who sent me a New Yorker article that talked about the thought process that the FCC went through when they evaluated the deal, and they realized that access to customers works two ways. Yes, Comcast and Time Warner do not compete. They're in separate markets almost across the board. There are virtually no places where they're in the same place. However, if you're Netflix, all of a sudden your ability to reach customers goes from two major cable suppliers to one cable supplier, and that's for the entire country. And under that lens, that's why they decided to not allow the deal or encourage it not to go forward. And once I saw it from that perspective, I did see it as a very, very good thing that it didn't go through.
Well,
Comcast has a lot of enemies too. I mean,
yeah.
At the end of the day,
it's
the
not
NBC
even that they have enemies. You're right about that. They also just they don't have a lot of friends either.
No, they don't, and they very much do what they want to do. And at the end of the day, the NBC thing was, that was a pound of flesh to get that through.
Hey man,
and this, I think, I really, and that mattered more to them than this. They pushed this very hard for a while, but then after a while, they sort of accepted the fact it probably wasn't going to happen, and that was months ago.
I've been laid off by Comcast too, so just saying.
There you go.
Wall Street
Wait,
Journal
have you
says-
really? Because that's what Mega Vortex was complaining about in the chat room right now.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Vortex.
We're all in the same boat.
The Wall Street Journal says AT&T's proposed acquisition of DirecTV is likely to win approval. Merger fans. The U.S. FCC is sources are saying the U.S. FCC is behind it, and the Department of Justice hasn't raised any significant issues yet. So, hey, DirecTV.
That's a hell of a name, Tom. I'm a big fan of it. I don't have any problem with this. It's a little bit weird to me because I know AT&T offers cable services in a lot of communities, including ours.
The Verse system, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So I don't really understand the need to have a satellite provider. I guess if they want to go into rural communities, this is. It seems to me like they are definitely in two different categories, and it doesn't seem like a bad idea.
The Uverse is the only overlap, but the Uverse number of subscribers is so low compared to DirecTV's service that it's minimal. It's big. You don't say no two companies can ever combine. It's only when they are going to have an outsized share of the audience, and this wouldn't make that happen. This would just give AT&T a competitive share of the audience with DirecTV. My only thing about it is like DirecTV had awesome service. Then they were owned by News Corp for a while, and their service was okay. And then they went back to having awesome service. And I've had AT&T's service before, and I hope that DirecTV can maintain their service levels.
Eck, do you have since we're already in extension territory right now, do you have an opinion on this?
Nope, that's okay. You can move on.
All right. I'm gonna bank my extra time here. Marvel president Kevin, I'm gonna pronounce it Feige because it looks like the word beige with an F. Kevin Feige told Cinema Blend that he's so obsessed with Star Wars that he's made sure that all of their Phase 2 Marvel movies, somebody gets their arm cut off as some kind of like homage to The Empire Strikes Back, and sure enough,
apparently there's an arm cut off in every Star Wars movie.
Oh, wait, that's right.
Think about it. Cantina, arm cut off.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Darth Vader, arm cut off and all that. But specifically, they were thinking in the article, he was talking about how, the Phase 2 is really their empire. And as an homage to that, he made sure that that somebody gets their arm cut off, pointing out, Thor gets his arm cut off in Thor the Dark World, Groot gets his arm cut off in Guardians of the Galaxy, Killian gets his arm cut off in Iron Man 3, the Winter Soldier gets his arm cut off in the Winter Soldier. I gotta tell you, this kind of I'll take an extension here. This kind of took a bit of the fun out of it for me. I wish I hadn't known this. It was a bit inside for me.
It's awesome, though. I mean, it's giving an arm and a leg, right, as they say. But
All right.
Actually, it's a lower budget, just an arm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller of the Lego Movie fame are producing and writing a treatment for an animated Spider-Man movie to come out July 20th, 2018, separate from the live-action Spider-Man franchise and the Marvel Universe. Is this too much Spider-Man, Eck?
No, because Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are awesome. I mean, these are the Lego Movie was so well written, it's crazy. I mean, and that's what I'm excited about. I mean, I would watch anything they do. I mean, there is a lot of Spider-Man for sure, but that movie is hilarious. The Lego Movie is really, really funny, and in a way that appeals to kids and adults. I think this will be good because Spider-Man obviously is all about, there's a lot of like witty puns and back and forth stuff, and if they throw anywhere near as much interesting stuff as they did in the Lego Movie, and there's a great documentary on the Lego Movie I watched recently, so I'm a little bit biased, but man, oh man, watching what they did to put that Lego Movie together, I think these two guys will do anything well.
Man, if you ask me, it is a tacit, implicit acknowledgement that their current live-action stuff is a hot bag of garbage. Hey, the BBC has confirmed that in its upcoming docudrama about the making of Grand Theft Auto called Game Changer, Daniel Radcliffe will play Rockstar Games co-founder Sam Houser, and Bill Paxton will play lawyer Jack Thompson. So the question is, do you dare say anything about Thompson and risk a cease and desist order for uttering his name? Tom.
Love Bill Paxton. He was great in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Eck? Do you want to...
And Twister. Come on now, don't forget Twister. Right? Bill Paxton was in Twister.
Sure. Yeah, no, he's great Twister.
I'll tell you what, this is one of the benefits of growing old is that you start to get to see movies made about stuff you remember from your life. And I remember late 90s, early 2000s. I remember reading all the editorials from the fine staff over at PC Gamer magazine where they refuted the nonsense claims of Jack Thompson. It's fantastic. Like his I would love to see a fictionalization of the story that I watched play out in my life.
I wonder if Scott Johnson's cease and desist that he got from Jack Thompson will show up in this movie.
Wait, did that happen?
Yes, totally did.
Wait. Pause. Really?
Yeah, he just ignored it. He wrote a cartoon that mentioned Jack Thompson and got a cease and desist from him and was like, I'm just going to pretend I didn't see it. And nothing ever happened.
Wow, that's amazing. All right.
Yeah. NBC Sports has launched a version of its Live Extra app for both Apple TV and Roku. Of course, you still need a qualifying cable subscription to access it, but I thought you should know.
This is awesome for a second because this is I've lived on this app because I'm watching the NHL playoffs all the time right now, and they're not you can buy Game Center and nothing's on there right now, but everything's on this app, and it's really a well done app. And the cool thing about it is you can launch it on as many different devices as you want to with one access code, so you can have multiple games going in different places, and now you can have multiple TVs with Apple TVs. You can actually play all the different games with one little subscription. That's a pretty cool thing.
That's actually cooler than I thought. You still need a cable subscription though, but
you do.
For that, it's actually pretty good.
And the fact that NBC Sports, of course, is a broadcast company, we've seen a number of other broadcast institutions find greater value by going into other formats. So I think this is a smart play on NBC's part. Take that to the bank, jerks.
Boom. My Apple Watch told me I had to stand up, so let's see what's under surveillance.
Oh my gosh, I was wondering what was happening.
It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Okay, here's the stuff you can watch. Netflix ordered a 10-episode series co-created by Aziz Ansari and Andy Yang. Andy Yang, the EP of Parks and Rec. Excited about this? Must have liked his stand-up special that he did for Netflix.
I mean, I would imagine so. Everything I've seen Aziz Ansari do is good. Obviously he has a knack for writing good material since he's had so much success as a stand-up comedian. I would say a provisional in.
Parks and Rec was so driven by characters that's the hard thing. I mean, it's characters. If they get the casting right and have great characters, it'll be amazing.
They say some of the Parks and Rec cast may show up. Claire Danes apparently is going to have a guest spot. Who knows? Netflix has officially ordered 13 episodes of Fuller House. It's now official, produced and guest starring John Stamos, starring Candace Cameron Bure, Jodie Sweetin, and Andrea Barber. Discussions with other members of the Full House cast are ongoing. Here's the premise. Pregnant and recently widowed DJ Tanner Fuller is living with her younger sister and lifelong best friend and her feisty teenage daughter, all joined to help raise DJ's two boys and prepare for the birth of the new baby, who's probably going to be a boy, so they can reverse the whole Full House concept.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Not sure.
I mean,
Okay.
is this going to be like
that's all you guys need to say, really.
Is it going to be like serious? Is it going to be like canned
it's a comedy.
laughter?
It's a sitcom. It's like a 90s sitcom.
What are Laverne and Shirley's kids doing now?
So they're doing this because clearly there's been like a big outcry. Like it got Full House.
Full House is hugely popular
huge.
still among people who grew up watching
My
it.
daughter watches Full House all the time. Full House is enormous.
And apparently amongst the younger generation too. So yeah,
Yep.
it's a nostalgia play, but I guess
Yeah.
So the general consensus is that Full House was killed before its time, and that there was a great injustice. And they needed to write it.
I don't know if it's an injustice thing or just like, oh, remember Full House? That was such a great show.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's very, when you watch it, it's very much that time period too. Like everything is right. I mean, it's very specific. To the time period of
so let me just say this. I think you guys are spot on. I think that it is very popular among that demographic, which means it will now enter that hallowed category is like, the reunion special of Leave It to Beaver, the after MASH. I mean, it's like on the great list of things that
Return to Gilligan's Island.
Yes, exactly. It's all of those, and it's going to do as well as those.
You know what? Netflix wants to cover every niche, and they don't care how popular they are as long as they're wildly popular with the niche. So maybe this is where the after mashes of the world belong.
This is perfect for them. You're absolutely right, because people watch Full House on Netflix. I mean, they'll watch the entire thing, so why not? If you've got diehard fans, they know they must have a lot of people just watching in bulk Full House right now. So.
All the popularity of Living with Lucy from the early 80s. It's going to be great.
That may be all Netflix needs. They've looked at the data and said, yeah, okay. If we get enough people sticking around on Netflix for that, totally worth it.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Paramount has a Galaxy Quest TV show in development.
Okay, allow me to completely reverse my position and unfairly say I'm so very in on this.
Oh, man.
Mac, what about you?
No, since you took down the Lego people earlier, Brian, I'm pissed off. No.
Lego people are fine. What I'm saying is the live action Spider-Man is a hot bag of garbage. Which is why they're bringing in the experts who brought us the Lego movies.
I'll be less pissed off then, but I'll still say that Galaxy Quest is something the only person in my life that liked Galaxy Quest was the person I just couldn't stand. You know how sometimes a show just attracts it? So there's something about that particular show. I love all these kind of shows that we talk about, but Galaxy Quest, I don't know, something about it.
We were friends. I thought you and I were on the same page. I don't even know you.
I'm sorry.
I don't want. Grab Thor's hammer, I'm gonna punch you in the nuts.
Oh man.
I wonder how you make this a TV show, and it's still in development, so it could totally fall apart. But my guess is here's what I think. Here's what I would like to see: is Galaxy Quest set on the Galaxy Quest planet as they're receiving TV from Earth and deciding that is how the world works.
Man, I don't know. Okay, to be honest,
otherwise you're trying to follow the cast of Galaxy Quest,
like a prequel to the movie, kind of.
No. Okay, no. Here's what you do. Like most good movies made into TV shows, you essentially take what you loved about the television show and stretch it out over an infinite number of episodes. The first episode begins just like the movie with a bunch of has-beens at a con that get caught up or whatever. Then 4 or 5 episodes in, they understand the conceit and they're doing their best to fake their way into being pilots on this spaceship for these crazy octopods or whatever.
Fails when you try to stretch the movie across TV shows. It so rarely works.
No way, dude. Sliders. I say Sliders to you, sir.
Was a movie?
No, but it could be just like Sliders. They could always be this close to going back home, and meanwhile they're off having all these adventures, faking their way.
You're just talking about a 5-year mission to build it go where no man's gone before.
Maybe. That's fine. Right. I'm fine with all of that.
All right, fine. I'm in. Netflix has approved a second season of Daredevil for 2016. Previous commitments are going to prevent the current showrunner, Stephen DeKnight, from continuing as showrunner, but Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez will stay on and take over the show.
Do you think that's the beginning and the end of it is the showrunner? Or do you feel like, and keep in mind, full disclosure, I have not finished Daredevil. Ek, are you watching it?
Yeah, I'm not finished it either.
Okay, so we're all not done, but I think we certainly all like what we've seen so far.
Oh, yeah.
Is the showrunner the beginning and the end of it?
I kind of feel like in this case, it's got a good shot of staying the course because you've got 2 folks who were integral into running it. I don't know how integral, but they're basically saying, I'm handing it over to the guys who've been helping me run it for the first season, so it should be fine. I think there's a good shot that'll work.
Well, and especially in a case where it's not like somebody wrenched control out of somebody who really had something to say.
They're not like getting rid of the entire writer's room or anything.
Or I mean, we're not looking at a Community Season 4 situation is what I'm saying.
Hopes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, I've been watching Daredevil. I'm only up through episode 7, though, so I'm one behind you, Brian. But I've also been watching The Last Man on Earth, which continually brings me to the brink of too much cringe and then stops right before I quit. So it's kind of brilliant in that way. And it has become a show about how humans are pretty much the same and have the same dynamics no matter what's going on, even if it's post-apocalyptic, which is kind of genius and also pretty funny. Loving Arrow, loving Flash, enjoying Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll probably love it again once we get the Avengers tie-in next week, but we'll see, or this week.
And by the way, this is the first I'm hearing about it. Is so there is an Avengers 2 tie-in with the series?
Yeah, there's Avengers Age of Ultron tie-in coming in this episode that'll be on tomorrow.
But not with the Daredevil story. There's not any kind of Daredevil tie-in.
No.
Okay,
Daredevil's all part of the Defenders tie-in that's going to culminate on Netflix.
Got it.
And then I also went and saw Ex Machina, which is about the artificial intelligence and the Turing test, and stars Oscar Isaac, and it was enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought they did a great job. It was a good movie.
It's weird to try to read the tea leaves on Ex Machina, but one of the things that I keep hearing is that wow, it's great to see ambitious science fiction again. And that's about all I can really get out of it, is that it goes bigger than you think it will. It follows things to a logical conclusion, which I don't know what any of that means, but as somebody who loves, especially from the golden age of science fiction in the 50s and 70s and so on, that sounds like something that would appeal to me.
I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence, but I cover it sometimes, and everything they say was was beyond my realm of expertise to criticize. Nothing sounded wrong. And that's kind of where you want your science fiction, is to be like, well, if they're getting it wrong at such a minute level that you'd have to be an expert to tell. So it was not, they didn't cut any corners. They worked hard to make it good. And if you're into AI, you probably see the seams in there and the things that couldn't really happen, et cetera. But I thought it was really compelling.
Right on. So the only thing that I guess you didn't mention Game of Thrones, which of course we both watched last night. We'll talk about that in spoiler in time. I found that the IFC series for Garfunkel and Oates is now on Netflix. Started plowing through those. I'm only like 2 in, but holy cow, you're talking to a guy who fell in love with Tenacious D, fell in love when they played it again, calling it Flight of the Conchords, fell in love for the 3rd time now that they have vaginas and they're called Garfunkel and Oates. It's awesome.
I gotta watch that. Then.
I mean, it's the same show. They're all the same show, and I love all of them.
Because I loved the first 2 you mentioned. There's no reason I shouldn't love Garfunkel and Oates too. Then
yeah,
I gotta see it. I haven't seen it yet. I really want to see it.
Eck, I know you've been watching a lot of Stanley Cup playoffs, so hockey is dominating. Anything else you've been watching?
Yeah, hockey's killing me, man. These triple overtime games on the West Coast are not easy to live a life by when you've got small children getting up in the morning. But yeah, no. It's funny, the way we set up our house at playoff time is we have the big TV, and then we have a little TV that's basically run by the family. So I've been watching hockey, but on the side TV, been watching some pretty fun things. And my daughter's going, but they're totally bizarre. My daughter's going through the entire history of that 70s show, and I'm like, wait, that girl's from that. That's a really, that.
No, hold on. I mean, that was a fairly edgy show.
Yeah, it really
its time
was.
In the late 90s. You got them smoking doobies and whatnot.
Yeah, and they do a really good job at not ever mentioning what they're doing, but yet doing it at the same time. My son's going through season 4 of The Simpsons, which is one of the best seasons of The Simpsons by far.
Sure.
That, and my wife's watching the Roosevelt Ken Burns documentary. So I've been watching a combination of those 3 every night. Plus, we just went through, like I said, the entire Hacking the System, which is how the whole thing ends, basically. So when the kids are tired, we always used to put on Mythbusters, and now Hacking the System.
The dulcet tones of Brian Brushwood lulling them to sleep.
They love it, and it's so funny because they talk about it in school with their friends, and they've talked about all these little hacks that they're really into it.
That's awesome. And in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because happening right now, people have been asking for a long time when Hacking the System was going to come to Europe. And the answer is right now. The premiere just happened like hours ago. Monday nights, I guess it's running in England and most of Europe. And please, everyone, watch.
On our radar this week, it already came out in Europe, but Avengers Age of Ultron comes out in the U.S. It is Amtrekker's movie in the movie draft, and it will make all the money.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You want to talk about, and we'll talk about it more in depth during spoiler in time, but right now, the number 1 purchase in the draft was Andrew Zarian's purchase of Furious 7, which it has made about $10 million for every $1 game dollar spent, which is incredible, which I don't think there's any chance Amtrekker is going to match with his $80 purchase of Avengers 2.
Let's get to some dispatches from the front.
If you insist, sir.
They're not in the back. Got a couple of emails regarding our discussion of the bar that was showing things that it shouldn't have been showing because it didn't have a license for public performance. Hosko, the sports director, comes from a broadcast TV background, found it interesting. He says, I work in sports broadcasting, and as a rights holder, we own the rights to any video shot in the venue. We often use spectators' footage from Instagram. We don't need to ask permission because we already own the rights. My apologies, this is about periscoping at sports games. He says if Periscope gets big enough, they will have no choice but to set up a content management system to block copyright infringement. He thinks they're being naive. YouTube had to do it after all. Also, I would have thought that bars would have paid for commercial access to the cable company. So if HBO is part of the package, I don't see what the issue is. Well, the issue is they bought the wrong package. And in fact, we got a Time Warner business class rep wrote in and said, look, bars, at least as far as we're concerned, are required to buy a bar restaurant package. And any other type of service is against some city ordinances. It's definitely against some federal rules as well. Especially broadcasters are billed on a per-head estimate or fire capacity rating for the facility. This discourages establishments from just paying the residential price and raking in a massive profit without the actual content creator receiving their supposed due. So a couple of content creators out there saying, Periscope is going to have to get off their butt if they don't realize that they're going to have to do some proactive filtering like YouTube did. So in other words, YouTube set the precedent, and now it sounds like the content owners are saying, well, we're going to want that from anybody. And you've got somebody in the business saying, yeah, the way you're supposed to do it is buy the package that charges you the most because you're going to have the most people watching it. And it sounds like the bar we were talking about last week just kind of got a residential package and sneaked it in somehow.
Yeah, I have a really good story about this, if I could. Back when Quick first came out, QIK, which is very much like Periscope, right, where you could go and film something live. I was in Montreal at the center up there where the Canadians play, which I can't believe I can't remember right now, the Bell Center, and I was filming with this, and I actually had a guy come up to me from the CBC at the time saying, where's my camera crew? They thought I was like literally bringing a camera crew around with me when I was just using Quick to film the locker room. So I talked to the NHL at the time and went through an entire thing about the fact that if this ever becomes popular, what would they do? And this is way before Periscope. And the NHL is actually kind of embracing Periscope. They're not really having an issue with it so far. They are even thinking about starting a page where Periscopes, if they could figure out a way of embedding it or what have you, they would like the idea where you could just go to an NHL.com page and see all the Periscopes coming from a particular game.
Well, and it seems like that's a number of people are realizing that that's where the better angle is. And part of it, though, I have to imagine is because right now Periscope, while it is fairly consistent stream, it's a fairly low quality stream. So, for example, the WWE would not perceive a Periscope as a threat to its pay-per-view sales on any particular event. But as that changes over the next few years, and in fact, as Periscope style transmissions become the preferred way to do it, I would imagine that would change.
Well, maybe not. I mean, it all depends on what the reality of the situation is and how much your business model is really threatened and how much you can use it to take advantage. For instance, do you remember going to concerts where they wouldn't let you bring in a camera or even a phone with a camera even a phone because you were going to take a picture? This is before video, right? You were going to take a picture of the artist, and that would undermine their ability to sell merchandise with pictures of the artist on it. Of course, now it's the opposite. Now everybody bring in their phone, and they're like, hey, everybody, take your photos, put them on Instagram, hashtag this, help us promote the artist. Yeah. So these things change over time.
That's where I think they're going to go. I think they're going to go to hashtagging and basically saying you can Periscope, but if you Periscope, we have the right to use it on our website in some way, shape, or form to actually promote another angle of the game. And say something happens, where a guy gets hacked behind the play and no one sees it, no camera picks it up, and somebody has it on a Periscope. That's another debate that came up this week with the NHL. What is that admissible as evidence to suspend a guy? If someone,
that's interesting because then you enter a world where people can affect the outcome of a game either by citizen journalism or in a more nefarious situation by altered, evidence that they submit.
Right.
Interesting. Nick writes in, hey, Schwood and Tom, I'm hoping you guys can shed some light on how us Cordkillers can stream the big fight this weekend legally. My current setup is a Sling TV plus Plex on my Fire TV and HTPC. Additionally, I have a PS4. Is there a way I can watch the fight? Boxing, take my money, your boss, Nick. Tom, let me go out on a limb and say the answer is probably not.
Nick, as far as I can tell, and maybe I'm missing something, you can legally go buy a cable card for your home theater PC, subscribe to a cable service, get Showtime, and pay Showtime to watch the fight. That is the way you can legally watch it.
I mean, that's what it means to have original content, is you get to have a monopoly on it, right? And Showtime spent all the bucks in order to have the exclusive rights
Apparently
to broadcast.
it's a Showtime HBO joint production, but Showtime is where you pay the bill, I think.
Sure. But the point is they spent that money with the expectation that they would be able to reap exclusive rewards for it. So in this case, I don't even know that it's really much of a cord cutter issue so much as a doggone free market episode.
Benjamin White wrote in and said, I want to thank you for splitting out Spoiler in Time into a separate news feed. I often go back and watch those episodes later. However, I was disappointed to find the movie draft update being covered only in the Spoiler in Time episode. I really liked it being part of the main show for the winter movie draft and would have completely missed it altogether if I hadn't noticed the rundown for this week's Spoiler in Time episode. Any chance of seeing the movie draft update make its way back into the main show?
I think the answer is it's not likely right now. Part of the reason that we moved it is because we're just so crammed full right now on the news side of things, and especially as we look to develop and grow Spoiler in Time as its own program, it makes sense that the first 5 or 7 minutes would be about, some other comment material. So the good news is it'll always be the first thing on Spoiler in Time. So go ahead and listen to it, and then just get that part that you like, and then just shut it off. Don't even listen to the rest.
And then Dan wrote in and pointed out that I misspoke. I said PlayOn was $10 a month last week. It's $10 for 3 months. But he points out you can get it even better. They have a lifetime membership if you're interested in PlayOn, where it's actually $40 a year, but it's on sale for $50 lifetime. Yeah. So in other words, you pay $10 extra, but you get it forever. And you don't have to pay the $90 lifetime fee that you would normally have to pay. The sole negatives are that Play Later records in real time. So if you're getting an hour-long show, it takes an hour, and closed captions are painful and pretty much a loss, he says.
Yeah, I was way early on the PlayOn game. This was before I was fully reformed and had legal ways to buy all the stuff, so there would be stuff that I would download, and it made it easy to play it on the Xbox. So I got in and am still riding the lifetime purchase. PlayOn's great for if you have content that you've ripped to a local PC, and even for playing music and stuff, because it automatically logs in and checks out, your entire media library, whether it's video or music, and makes it fairly easy to do. But you know what? It was actually, now that I think about it, it was because it allowed me to access Hulu in the living room without having to do Hulu Plus was the original reason I did it.
So you were using it for that workaround like we were talking about last week, where somebody was saying it's a way to get HBO Now, which Chromecast kind of makes that easier for everything now.
Right.
With the tab casting. But yeah, if you got PlayOn, you might as well use it for that.
No, it was good. It was good.
And that is it for the show. Thank you, Eck, for being with us. As always, you can find Eck's work at hockeybuzz.com. You can follow him on the Twitters. It's HockeyBuzz on Twitter, right?
It's Eklund, at Eklund on Twitter. Yep.
Oh, it's Eklund on Twitter. Do you have HockeyBuzz? Like
I
a
do have
separate feed
HockeyBuzz
for
on Twitter,
the
yeah,
HockeyBuzz?
but it's mainly at Eklund. That's where you can find.
Yeah, so if you want to follow Eck, you follow Eklund. AEKLUND. Anything else to tell folks about?
Nope, that's about it. I mean, it's the playoffs. It's fun. And if you're a hockey fan, we do a podcast every day from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern time, kind of our version of the daily tech hockey news show, sort of.
The daily hockey news show.
That's something to check out.
And that's 1 p.m. Eastern time.
1 p.m. Eastern time, yep.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brian Brushwood, good job.
Oh, my gosh.
See you next time.
Digital high fives. Hey, guys. Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
let's go.
It's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.